What's up, YouTube? It's your Huckleberry here, back with another video. I thoroughly enjoy bringing to you guys some of the channels that I watch the most. And I've alluded to watching Nate the Lawyer's channel in a couple of videos in the past. And he just come out with a video discussing and clarifying the Don Lemon situation and Don Lemon being arrested. So I wanted to react and learn with you guys through Nate's video here, and also show you what he has to offer. So let's get into it.
And to a Fox News alert, journalist Don Lemon has been arrested in connection with an anti-ICE protest at a church in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Former CNN anchor turned independent journalist Don Lemon out of custody, but facing federal civil rights charges after covering an anti-ICE protest inside a church near Minneapolis.
Really, y'all got to understand, like I said before, Speaker Jeffrey spoke, they're doing their 19th century research. Our ancestors are rolling in their graves that they're using a KKK act against Don Lemon.
So they finally got Don Lemon arrested. Now, if you've been watching this channel for a while, you know we look at the law, then we look at the facts, and then you get to decide how it's going to play out. So first, let me introduce you to 18 U.S.C. Section 241. This is called the KKK Act. Now, this law isn't new. It was passed May 31st, 1870, literally 156 years ago. Now, Congress passed this law specifically to stop the Ku Klux Klan from riding out in the night and terrorizing freed slaves. Now, in the South, you would have a whole bunch of armed white men throw on hoods and go to black churches, kick everybody out, and burn down the building. Sometimes they'd burn down the building while leaving everyone in the building. So Congress had enough of that and decided to pass this law. Now, what the act does, it makes it a federal crime for two or more people to conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person in the free
So just take out of the context the KKK part of why this was set up. Okay, it's still an act of law, and there's some keywords here: threaten, or more importantly, intimidate any person. So yes, it's created for a specific group of individuals that were repeatedly committing these heinous acts, but it's still on the books today. And many laws can transcend and be applicable in the future for different groups. So just because there's this stigma or this title like the KKK Act or whatnot, doesn't mean that just because the KKK is not doing it, it's okay. So I think there's a misnomer here where people are like, oh, this is some KKK thing. That's what this law was created for. Yes, what it was created for, but that doesn't absolve other groups from doing it. It's not like any other organization goes and starts doing this stuff that they carte blanche to do it simply because the initial law was directed at the KKK, who was the group initially doing it. Sorry if that sounded a little bit of bananas and rice there, but I think you get what I'm saying.
exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to them by the Constitution. And in this particular case, we're talking about your First Amendment right to exercise your religious preference. So, simply put, if you get together with a whole bunch of people and go to a church to interrupt their religious services, you are committing a federal crime and can serve up to 10 years in prison. Now, for you to be convicted of this crime, there are 4 elements the government has to prove. It has to prove, number 1, a conspiracy, an agreement between 2 or more persons to do this thing. Next, they got to show that you had the specific intent to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate. The victims have to be a person within the United States, and the right has to be something that's constitutionally protected, like your freedom of religion. So as you can see here from Don Lemon's indictment, he is charged with 18 U.S.C. Section 241. Now, 18 U.S.C. Section 248 is the freedom of access to clinic entrances. This requires force, threat of force, or physical obstruction for anybody who wants to go into some place for reproductive health, like an abortion clinic, or if someone goes into a church. Now, when you scroll down the penalties, you'll see if it's a first offense, essentially it's a misdemeanor. You get fined and you can be in prison for not more than 1 year. Second and third offenses moves it up to felonies. Now, since this is a misdemeanor, I'm not going to go over this one in depth. Let's go over the felony that can get him 8 years in prison, because I think that is the one you'd be most concerned about. So now, since the indictment points back to Don Lemon's own live stream that he did on that day, what we're going to do is look look at the actual evidence the government presents in this live stream, and I'll let you determine if he has violated any of these laws. So now let's go into the indictment and see what the government has on Lemon. All right, so we're going to start at overt act number 5. Now, the indictment essentially claims that Lemon explains he is with an organized group gearing up for a resistance operation and takes steps to further maintain operational security. Here's the clip.
Hey everybody, welcome to the program. We just got into Minneapolis a little bit ago and did some reconnaissance on the ground. I'm speaking to an organization there that's gearing up for resistance and protest. These are resistance protesters. They're planning an operation that we're going to follow them on. I can't tell you exactly what they're doing, but it's called Operation Pull Up. And it's Takima Armstrong, and she has been doing this since George Floyd, Dante Wright, and others.
So the government is saying that what you just watched is evidence of what's known as a meeting of the minds, an agreement. Now, this is required for the conspiracy, especially under 18 U.S.C. Section 241. This is element 1. And the government's saying that Don Lemon admitted that we are, quote, planning an operation, and I can't tell you exactly where they're going. This serves as evidence of the agreement between the defendants to commit these acts. Next, we move to allegation or overt act number 6. The indictment claims that Armstrong, the person who organized this whole thing, explains to Lemon that this is a clandestine operation designed to disrupt business as usual, and that this goes to element number 2 under 241, which is the intent to oppress or intimidate. Government's argument is that the person who set this up, Armstrong, made explicit statements that the goal is to disrupt business as usual, and the target location establishes a specific intent to interfere with the rights of the victims, the churchgoers, rather than just peacefully assemble. Here's the clip.
How are you?
Good.
To see you. We're on. We're not saying what it is, what's going on, but thank you. Tell us why you're doing this.
So
This is Nakima Levy Armstrong. She's on the show
Nakima
on
Levy
Friday.
Armstrong, civil rights attorney, longtime activist here in the community. And, we protest and do activism in all kinds of ways. This is Operation Pull Up, more of a clandestine operation. We show up somewhere that is a key location. They don't expect us to come there. And then we disrupt business as usual. So that's what we're about to go do right now. We've had a lot of success with the times we have done Operation Pull Up.
The government says here you're going to see Lemon instruct an associate not to reveal the location of the live stream to maintain the element of surprise. Government argues that this demonstrates Lemon's active participation in the conspiracy's logistics rather than just observing as a journalist.
So this is going to be very interesting. I don't think we can go ahead. I don't think we can go inside, right? No. No.
So, real fast, I hope you guys can appreciate how Nate breaks this down. He's very concise and clear and specific in, what part of the statutes are being violated. And for that, I got much appreciation and, for the work that he does.
Okay, so we are here now. Do you think if you just have it, I think maybe if you just have it on the church, but if they see me, they're gonna know. No?
It just depends.
What?
Don't name the location.
I'm not naming the location, but I mean, I'm just wondering if you see me. The folks inside see me.
Are the congregants really on live instead of in service right now?
No, but they'll be like, "Why is Don Lemon here?"
Sunday morning. Sunday morning church.
Yeah. Okay, we'll see.
Like, well, what else? It's Sunday.
I mean, it didn't help that your name's on your fucking hat, dude.
We already said the church.
No, we didn't.
So next in the indictment, I wanted to point you to overt act number 23 and 24. Lemon confronts the pastor. The indictment claims that Lemon stands in close proximity to the pastor, causing the pastor to graze him, and admonishes the pastor, "Please don't push me."
Worship Jesus, because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world, is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
We're here to worship Jesus. Yes. That's why we're here. Yeah. Okay. That's why we're here. Okay. That's what we're about.
Don't you think Jesus would be understanding
we're about
love these folks?
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them
Bro, I can't believe that he did this. This is kind of jacked up. These people are minding their own business, doing their own fellowship in church service. The audacity and the gall to run up in here and disrupt what's going on is ludicrous to me.
No one is willing to talk.
Okay.
I have to take care of my church and my family, so I asked if you actually would also leave this building.
You don't want us to
Unless you're here to worship. Unless you're here to worship.
I'm always worship. I'm a Christian.
We're here to worship.
Okay, so he told you to leave. So now at this point, you're trespassing.
We're here to worship. Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So the government's making the argument that what you just saw was a violation of the FACE Act, 18 U.S.C. Section 248. And this is physical obstruction against the pastor by Don Lemon. And they also say Lemon was asked to leave, and since he didn't, that also is more evidence of obstruction. And lastly, they say Lemon was confronting congregants at the door. At one point, defendant Lemon posted himself at the main door of the church, where he confronted some congregants and physically obstructed them as they tried to exit the church building, challenging them with the quote facts about U.S. immigration policy. Here's the clip.
Folks are leaving. Just want to show you, and that's the inside of the church there where they are. And so the pastor, I don't know if you can see in there, the pastor's hugging members of the church as they are about to leave. And so, an interesting Sunday morning for you. What do you think of this?
Just a harmless Christian here that wants to praise the Lord with my son, and now I got to go home. I'm sorry that you guys are so angry.
I'm just chronicling. I'm not with the group.
Oh, what do I have to say?
Can you understand why they're angry?
Okay, so he's trying to act like he's a journalist now. Journalists would have reported what's going on, where they're at, and all the facts. But he clearly kept it a clandestine operation, as Armstrong wanted. That's where the government's saying, well, no, you were participating, you were a part of it. But he's claiming here that he wasn't.
I don't understand any of this because I'm a simple man. I'm a simple man who loves the Lord and is a good father. So this is what we look forward to, is coming, being with our family and praising Jesus, and that's not something that we have to run away from. So this is kind of a bad day for us.
Now, with all that said, that's the evidence against Don Lemon, or at least what the government says it has. Now, there is more in there for the co-defendants, because they did some stuff like screaming at people and blocking access, so they would be guilty of that. But I'm just really focusing on Don Lemon's culpability in this situation. Now, I think this is an uphill battle for the Justice Department to get a conviction here. The arrest, the arraignment, all that looks good, but the courts are very protective, especially with journalists embedded in these type of events, and he's made it clear throughout this particular video that he wasn't with the protesters, but he was just covering the event, which I think is going to give him a lot of that First Amendment cover. So now the next thing Don Lemon's attorneys are going to do is run to federal court and ask for what's known as a probable cause hearing. They're going to ask a judge, a neutral body, to say, hey, do we have probable cause based on this particular information? Now, the good things Don Lemon has going for him is he's already had one magistrate judge say there is no probable cause. He's essentially had an appeals court say there really isn't any probable cause. Now they're going to go to a third judge for a probable cause hearing and say, well, hey judge, you got a magistrate judge saying no probable cause. We essentially have an appeals court saying no probable cause. So do you think there's probable cause? And if the government loses that probable cause hearing, that doesn't mean Don Lemon is off the hook. That just means they'd have to gather more evidence, maybe some phone records or something, to determine if Don Lemon was part of this conspiracy or if he was just part of the media covering it.
Also developing this morning, a new federal arrest is drawing attention to what prosecutors say was Don Lemon's role in planning and recording the disturbing protest of demonstrators storming that Minnesota church service. A Temple University student has now surrendered on federal charges, admitting he helped Don Lemon with logistics and local contacts ahead of that anti-ICE protest. Jerome Richardson, a political science senior, turned himself in and is accused of conspiring to interfere with religious worship. Court records and social media posts show Richardson describing himself as assisting Don Lemon in the days leading up to the protest. Lemon, who claims he was just reporting, was arrested last week and released, but prosecutors say this new arrest undercuts that defense, suggesting planning and not just passive coverage.
And just to be clear, Don Lemon wasn't the only journalist that facing charges for this event. There was another journalist who they also arrested too.
Award-winning local journalist Georgia Fort isn't used to being on this side of the cameras given her career reporting in the Twin Cities, reuniting with family Friday evening after federal agents arrested her early in the morning at her home.
I leave this federal courthouse today with one question.
Do we have a constitution?
Fort is facing charges after she was doing her job at a protest at City's Church in St. Paul earlier this month. The Trump administration is charging Fort with crimes amounting to conspiring to prevent people worshiping that day. Fort isn't the only journalist charged, with former CNN anchor Don Lemon arrested in California Thursday night.
So the possibility of conviction in these cases is just going to be almost impossible.
Right.
I think Don Lemon's going to have a lot of First Amendment protections. I think this other journalist is going to throw out some First Amendment protections. And essentially it's going to be a wash. Because don't forget, you have to prove this beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think this just drips of reasonable doubt. Now, I think you can get over the hurdle of probable cause, but I don't think realistically you're going to get a conviction in Minnesota for Don Lemon just reporting on these ICE protests. It's just not going to happen. But we'll see how it all plays out.
All right, guys. Well, it sounds like Nate broke it down pretty good for us. It's pretty clear, especially if some of these people were yelling and getting in people's faces and keeping them from exiting or entering. I feel like, those people might be on the hook for those misdemeanors. Don, on the other hand, like he said, it's going to be an uphill battle for them to prove that, especially when he's trying to chronicle that he's just there as a reporter. You didn't really see what the other girl, what was her name, Georgia Fort or something. You didn't really see her or what she happened. You can only assume that like whatever she was doing was probably similar to what he was doing. I can see where they would want to come at you for doing this because they want to prevent this from escalating and start happening more rampantly. Because it is messed up. Like, that's messed up, dude. These people, like that guy said, he's just there with his son trying to praise Jesus or go to service. And these people go up in there disrupting like they were wanting to do. That's what their objective was. I think the Alexander woman, the civil rights attorney, if that's accurate or not, I think she could be on the hook for something more serious because she got this together and all that kind of stuff. But in a general sense, I think there's a lesson they're just trying to make here by charging these individuals with this. Maybe a fine or something at the most. He'll probably walk, and we'll have to see more of his idiocracy online. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed watching Nate, the Lawyer's channel. We're going to go back to Nate in the future for some things. He has some really good input. He did one on the Peretti situation and the Nicole Good situation that was really informative. Perhaps I should have reacted to those. I would suggest going to his channel and checking those out if you're at all curious about the complexities of who was in the right and wrong and what was being violated there. Anyway, guys, I'm your Huckleberry. You can call me Huck. Thanks for coming and checking me out. Thanks for showing up. I hope to see you again next time. You're a daisy if you do. Peace.